Today on Unity Motorsports Garage, we have a lot to talk about with Casper. You're not going to want to miss this because this is a game changer for Ford transmission owners. Stay tuned. So when I first built Mixed Up Boss, I had some goals in mind. The first goal was for Mixed Up Boss to make over 700 horsepower naturally aspirated on 93 octane pump fuel. Now I actually wanted 750, but we got 708. Pretty happy about that. The second goal that I had for Casper is once Mixed Up Boss was actually in the truck, was being able to drive the truck to the drag strip and bust off a 6-second 1/8 mile pass and drive it home. And that was accomplished as well. So it wasn't long after we made these passes with Casper that the problem soon set in. First problem was destroyed the sprag in the original converter that was meant for 393 engine. I actually believe when I destroyed the 393, I hurt the converter, and when I ran the 689 pass, it finished the converter off because after that, it was never right. Like everything else, I have more aspirations for Casper. I have more dreams that I want to achieve. You know, Mixed Up Boss being 7 liters, 700 horsepower at 7,000 RPM is something that I really wanted to accomplish on 93 octane. Driving it to the track to get the 6-second ET in the 1/8 mile, that was something else. The next step is going to be drive it to the track and get a 5-second ET. This is where Jason Black and myself are competing to try to be the first into the 5s. We're just going to have to wait and see how it happens. You can actually see on my community post that I put this picture in, so you can kind of get an idea of the extent that I'm going to make it happen. So let's talk about Casper, where we're at today, and what exciting news that you want to hear about. So as you know, I'm a huge Dynamic racing fan. Harold Miller of Dynamic is top notch. I sent him my old 10-inch converter, and he told me straight up, he said, Andy, that's not the converter that we need for your application. He built me this awesome 9-inch converter here that is actually spragless. Now that is going to do a couple things. First, it's actually stronger. Second, it's going to make the transmission run hotter if I try to drive it on the street. And then there is one more trick that we're going to try with the C4 to get it to not flare the high gear engage. He's got this special piston design here. You can go to his website and I'll put a picture of it in so you can actually see it, to see if we can make the C4 live longer without getting into high gear flare. I feel pretty confident about that. So one of the things that I'm wanting to do is do some more dyno testing on the chassis dyno. I want to get Casper back up and going, do some videos on comparing chassis dyno numbers between what you see at the wheels and what we've seen at the flywheel. I think that will be quite interesting for people to see. Also, I want to do some other testing that I'm not going to talk about regarding intakes and carburetors and all that mess, because we want to go fast. And the only way that I can do that is if I start testing, start getting more power, and crank up the nitrous, which leads me to the next point. So with Mixed Up Boss making 708 horsepower and 600 foot-pounds of torque, that is stretching the legs of what the C4 transmission can actually handle in a 4,200 pound truck race weight. Whenever you're wanting to put nitrous on this combination, it's all about having the right tool for the job. So picking the right tool for the job, that is how I look at picking the transmission for what's going to go into Casper next. It all started way back last year whenever we were supposed to take Casper to the NoNameNationals, and I got to meet some of the most awesome people at that race, one of which being John Cope of Cope Racing Transmissions. If you don't know who he is, you will after this video. So let me set the stage for you. Cope has an F100. I'm wanting to say it's a 65 or maybe a 66. I don't know the exact year of it. But he has a 3rd Gen Hemi in it. And we were supposed to have a grudge race between Casper and his Mr. Haney. Haney is a bad ride. So when I get to the racetrack, I'm in my wife's Explorer because, well, Casper didn't make it, having to wait on headers being built and that whole fiasco. But for a man who has never met me, we hit it off right out of the gate. And believe it or not, he offered me to drive Mr. Haney at the track. He told me, he said, Andy, before you leave this event, you're going to drive a Hemi powered F100. And John, you don't know how much that meant to me. You know, I was really skeptical about driving someone else's ride, but I knew that it was pretty historic and it meant the world to me. So check this out.
What we're going to do is Andy's going to jump in the truck. We're going to go down the return road and back so we can feel how the truck is, show him how to shift it, where the line lock is, where the Transbrake is. And Andy's going down the track at the NoNameNationals in a Hemi Ford.
F100, baby.
John is co-racing transmission coming up in the 6th. This is their stop truck. That's the transmission stop. We've got a late model 24 Hemi. The first one there is 465 around the stopping. Not on a loaded motorcycle. We're going to drop 40 days. If it ever works out, they'll be able to rotate the earth on the back.
So after all of that, he and I started texting back and forth quite regularly. And at the point where I was going to put a turbo 400 in Casper, that was the route that I was planning on going. I was actually looking for bell housing for it and thought that that would be the best and cheapest solution to do it, since us Ford guys, when it comes to putting heavy duty transmissions in, of course we have the C6, but like I said, I have more goals in store for Casper here. I'm wanting to do a dragon drive. I want to get it into the 5-second range. So at the beginning of April, I think, no, it was the end of April, he sends me a text. Check this text out. He said, we're not going to put a GM transmission in that F100, because at that point I was considering a 4L80, which is basically a turbo 400 with overdrive. When he sent me that text, my wheels got turning, because an E4OD and a 4R100 is basically a C6 with overdrive. It has all of the upgraded parts. The 4R100s have the rollerized gear sets inside of them. You know, replacing the thrust washers makes for a much better unit. Has a deeper first gear ratio, which will help this thing get out of the hole. It wasn't the next day or two, he was sending me pictures where he was actually designing a valve body on a lid of a pizza box. I can't make this up. And this is where I have huge respect for John Cope, for someone to visualize something and get it down on a piece of cardboard and then turn it into a reality. Man, that is just unreal. So what makes this valve body so different? Well, guess what? There is no hydraulically controlled reverse manual valve body for an E4OD or a 4R100. Most of the valve bodies out there are still using the shift solenoids and still electronically controlled. So if you're wanting to put a electronically controlled transmission into an older vehicle, this valve body is going to be for you. So after about a month, he sent me a picture of what he was going to call this transmission, and it blew me away. He decided to call it the Casper Matic. And John, you don't know you don't know it, but it actually got me choked up when I seen that for the first time, because that was just a pretty profound deal that you would do that for me and name it after Casper. So you really need to go to John's channel and check this thing out. This is a YouTube exclusive. Like I said, a valve body does not exist in the world like this as of now. They may be copycats down the road later, who knows? But this is going to give you, the viewer, the customer who's wanting to put an electronically controlled E4OD or 4R100 into an earlier vehicle and have overdrive capability and have lockup torque converter, which is going to be huge, especially if you decide to drive down the interstate, which driving down the interstate in Casper right now is quite an adventure, because you're turning 3,800 RPMs, close to 4,000, just doing 65, 70 miles an hour. And doing a drag and drive, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to just put it in fourth gear, lock the converter, and cruise and get the best fuel economy. So rewinding back to me doing dyno test, I want to get this thing actually on the dyno with the C4 in prime condition and measure the power at the wheels, so that when we do get the new transmission in, I can do the same thing and we can see exactly how much power loss we get going to the new combination. Now, I'm sure it will eat up more power. It's a heavier transmission than the C4 by quite a bit, but it's also going to live, okay? This is going to give me everything that I could ever want with Casper, and I think it's definitely going to be strong enough for me to get this truck into the fives, be able to drive it there and drive it home. So yeah, I can't wait. So what is an E4OD? The notation stands for electronically controlled 4-speed overdrive transmission. These transmissions were produced in the early 1990s, maybe even the late 1980s, don't quote me on that, but was used all the way up even into the modular world in the Lightnings, heavy-duty F250 trucks with diesels, 300 6-cylinder trucks, you name it, it was produced with it. And it is a very robust transmission and offers a lot. It still utilizes the same gear train as the C6, the same principles apply. And what has made this so compatible for John Cope to do is the operation is very, very similar to the 46RE torque flight transmission. The one thing that you've got to understand is John Cope of Cope Racing Transmission, he is a Mopar guy. If you have a Mopar and you want to be fast, you better have a CRT transmission in it, at least a valve body, and because if not, you're going to be left behind. So I'm really excited about what's coming for Casper here with this new transmission, what possibilities it's going to open up. When is it going to be available? Well, after talking to John, it looks like it's going to be 2024, so it's going to be next year, probably sometime May, June, something like that. I'm sure there will be more formal announcement. As of now, he actually bought a test vehicle to test this transmission out in, and you can watch this video here. It is actually an operating unit as of now. But like with anything else, you want to do your due diligence and make sure that the product is good before you release it to the public. And trust me, I'm going to torture test it with this thing here. It also has this really cool thing to where you can change the line pressure setting from a race mode to street mode so that it won't jar your teeth out when you're driving it on the street. It'll be able to lock up converter in any gear, which is a really cool feature. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I can't wait to see a Casper Matic transmission be in Casper. So until next time, this is Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage. Don't forget, if you want to win a new carburetor, go to merchantsofspeed.net, get your hat and banner to win the Quick Fuel SQ650 that we're offering. And that wraps it up, folks. Catch y'all later.